welcome to the Change Leadership Conversations on leading change in today's disruptive and fast-paced business environment. I'd like to welcome today's guest, Anne Cavoukian. Anne has so many accomplishments. I'm just going to go through that. We've had Anne as one of the speakers at our annual Change Leadership Conference, and it was just an honor to have Anne there talking about her passion subject, which is privacy, data privacy, and security. So thank you, Anne.
Of course. Today. My pleasure. Thank you, Yvonne.
Anne is the Executive Director, Privacy and Security by Design Center, and she has also served an unprecedented 3 terms as Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, Canada. That's really exciting.
Yes, thank you.
That's a big honor. She's also a Senior Fellow at Ted Rogers Leadership Center. And she's the author of 2 books. One of it is The Privacy Payoff, How Businesses Build Customer Trust, and who knows, Safeguarding Your Privacy in a Networked World. Like I mentioned, excited to have you here talk about data privacy. And right now we're living in unprecedented times. Could easily say that we were living in disruptive times with 4th Industrial Revolution, AI, Internet of Things, and all of those things which had data and security and privacy implications. Now we have the crisis we're facing with COVID, and it has its own implications as well. And one of the things that we're seeing is the increased remote working.
Yes.
That's one thing. There's so many things we're seeing, but let's start with remote working. I recently read an article whereby a lot of organizations are said to be purchasing surveillance software so that they can monitor employee productivity.
Yes.
That's a big issue when it comes to building trust. So how can you build and trust with your employees when you're also surveying them?
I think you have to be really upfront with them, very open and transparent as to why you want to gauge their behavior and their performance. And remember, employers have a right to make sure that their employees are performing. They're doing that if they're at the office. So I understand that they need some means of knowing what the employees are doing and that they're in fact delivering on the expectations of whatever had been agreed upon in terms of their remote work. So I think there's got to be first clarity. What are the expectations? And what is permissible in terms of the monitoring of the employees' activities and behavior? And you've got to have a very frank discussion about this. There shouldn't be anything covert about this, unknown to the employee. If the employer is monitoring certain activities online, they have to tell them why are you doing it and what are their expectations. And also, it has to be not full-time. It has to be the equivalent of 9 to 5 so that the employee can turn it off, whatever monitoring is taking place, can just turn it off at the end of the workday, just like he or she would do if they're going into the office. So while employers have some right to monitor the activities of their employees, they have to be very straight with them, transparent as to expectations and what they're doing in terms of any data they're collecting from them online.
That's great. I love it in terms of being transparent. So once you're transparent, that way you're able to build trust. Well, there was a quote I saw today, coincidentally, and it said, the best way to build trust is to trust. So should they really be collecting data anyway? I mean, there may be some cases you need to collect data, but where's the trust factor when you're monitoring? How do you even make people feel comfortable?
This is an issue that transcends time and certainly transcends the pandemic we're going through now. Trust is extremely important, there's no question. But I believe there's always been an expectation on the part of employers that their employees are going to deliver. And there's been a lot of studies done that show that people working remotely from home underperform. It's not the conditions. So the expectations on the part of the employer, in my view, are understandable in terms of what are the deliverables they can expect to receive. I think expecting trust in this environment is extremely difficult, and there should be some clear, transparent expectations on the part of the employer that are communicated to the employee as to what they are permitted to see in terms of the work that they're performing and what are the deliverables. I think that's very important.
And still on the topic of remote working and technology, there's been about some of the tools that we're using now. Case in point, Zoom. Great tool,
Yes.
fantastic tool. But there's also been the security breach and hacking around it. So what should leaders and even the government be doing right now to help support people or lead?
We have to insist upon technologies like Zoom and others to strengthen the security that they're delivering, because it's been very weak in the past. For example, it was only last week Zoom turned off the ability of the information that is being communicated during your Zoom being conveyed to third parties unknown without the consent of the individuals. Like they were routinely sending information to a Facebook, for example, and webcams, and that was never authorized. The security measures have been very weak. And in fact, 2 days ago, March 30th, the New York Attorney General went to Zoom and said, tell me about what new security measures you've introduced, especially post-pandemic. We've been pressing you to increase your security. It's extremely weak. Hackers have been getting access to the information that is being exchanged via Zoom. Clearly, that's unacceptable. And Zoom responded that they're going to great lengths now to increase their security because, as you can imagine, their business has tripled, if not more, and everyone is using it. But then they have to deliver at their end in terms of the security and privacy that they're offering to their customers.
And one of the things that I've always been fascinated about you, I follow you on Twitter, so I'm all out there.
I know I tweet a lot.
So I see all the interesting posts you create or you make and you retweet.
Yes.
You're really passionate about data privacy. One of the things you're a big advocate for is privacy by design.
Yes.
I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about privacy by design.
Of course. Well, I created Privacy by Design over 20 years ago when I was privacy commissioner. Because, see, I'm not a lawyer. I was actually a psychologist. And what I wanted was not just regulatory compliance, privacy laws that kick in after the fact, after there's a data breach or privacy infraction. Then you call in the regulator to offer a remedy. But that's too little too late. The damage has been done. I wanted a model that prevents the privacy harms from arising upfront, proactively, embed the much needed privacy protective measures into the design of your operations, into your policies and procedures, bake it into the code in terms of your technical structure. That way, think of a medical model of prevention. We want to prevent the medical problems from arising, not just offer solutions after they've taken place. That's what I wanted with Privacy by Design. Embed it proactively into the design of your operations. And by doing so, you gain a competitive advantage.
Yes.
It builds trust. There's such a trust deficit right now, and this builds trust like no other with your customers.
For sure, that really builds trust. When I think even of the crisis that we're facing at the moment, and my favorite saying is, "These too shall pass."
Oh, please, we can't do it soon enough.
These too shall pass. Well, I think about the difference between organizations that were prepared with a business continuity plan as opposed to organizations who had to scramble and react to the change and fix issues, thereby exposing the organization to even various types of security concerns. So there's a difference between preparing and responding and reacting and scrambling.
It's so true. This is the best thing you could do, is be in a position where you're well prepared for any security issues that arise, privacy issues that arise. That is your best method, is to try to prevent these from arising. And you can do that with Privacy by Design. And your customers will thank you for it. Companies tell me all the time that when they do Privacy by Design, I tell them, first of all, lead with it, shout it from the rooftops, tell everyone on your website, this is the lengths you're going to protect your customers' privacy. And customers love it, and they say they reward them with loyalty, and it attracts new opportunity. It's a true win-win.
So that takes me to your book. So you've written 2 books, like we mentioned at the beginning, which is all on privacy, living in a networked world, about building trust. If you could just tell us a little bit more, how can leaders and organizations and the governments as well, how can they build trust with employees and with their clients and customers and stakeholders?
I always tell businesses, lead with being open and straight with your customers. Tell them exactly what you do, what you intend to do with their personal information, and get their positive consent to use that information in the ways you've described to them. That's called the primary purpose for the data collection. And when you're straight with them and you say, basically, I'm only going to use your information for the purpose that you consented to, the primary purpose of the data collection. Beyond that, I can't use your information. That's called privacy as the default setting. We can only use it for this one purpose. But if another use arises later on that we would like your consent for, we will come back to you and seek your positive consent. That builds trust like no other. And companies have told me when they go back to seek additional consent, they always get it. I'm actually not worried about companies. I'm much more worried about the government, especially in this pandemic. They want to collect so much information and engage in so much surveillance on people. And they don't need to do it. They don't need to do this in identifiable form. They can get aggregated data. You see, once the government increases its power in terms of the information it collects on citizens, after the crisis has been completed and has come to an end, they don't relinquish that power. It's rarely the case. They keep additional powers they get. So I'm telling everyone in this pandemic, governments, whatever additional information you want to collect for this emergency, there has to be firm sunset clauses, end dates. You can only collect this information, this additional information, until such and such a time. Then you can revisit it. But after that, forget it. We have to be very firm with governments these days.
Thanks for that, Anne. You've raised some really great points in our discussion today around communication, clarity, building trust, the responsibilities of the leaders and the organizations and the government. And we have people who are change leaders listening, or aspiring change leaders. And what we like to say at the Change Leadership is that everybody is a leader. And change leadership is no longer for the select few. It's no longer for the people who have the title as leader. So what can somebody listening to this or watching may not have the title as leader? What can they do to lead and drive change in this direction of data privacy and security?
They can act as a leader by being proactive, by embedding much needed privacy protective measures into their operations to protect their customers in terms of data breaches and privacy infractions. And also, you need a solid foundation of security to do that. While privacy, the term privacy subsumes a much broader set of protections than security alone, in this day and age of daily cybersecurity attacks, if you don't have a solid foundation of security from end to end with full lifecycle protection, you're not going to have any privacy. So that's how you can lead, by embedding much needed privacy and security measures into your operations before anything bad happens, so you can prevent the privacy harms, the security breaches from happening. They should do that right now, and they will show amazing leadership in doing so, and their customers will thank them.
I love that. So they don't have to have the title. They don't have to be a technology leader. They don't have to have cybersecurity experience. But even in their daily business operations, they can start to think about what I'm doing here. How does it impact my customer? How does it impact my employee? What information am I collecting, and do I need to be collecting this information? I mean, even myself as an individual, when I'm not leading, when I'm providing my information to somebody else, I'm like thinking, do you really need this information? What are you going to do with this information afterwards? I'm challenging how they store my data.
And that's wonderful. I tell everyone to do that. Lead yourself by any time you're asked for information, online or offline, just ask very nicely, oh, how are you going to protect that data? How will you be using it? I do this all the time. And what I find is the minute they know that you're interested in privacy, they up the bar. They say, oh, we can offer additional measures. We can do this. We can do that. All of a sudden, just your expression of interest in privacy gets them to respond much better.
Awesome. I love that. So what final thoughts can you leave with our leaders, our change leaders, our aspirational leaders, people who are leading and driving change in their organizations or in their personal space?
I would say never forget that privacy forms the foundation of our freedom. If you value freedom, if you value free and open democratic societies, then you value privacy. You cannot have freedom without strong privacy in place. So let's go to great lengths to protect the privacy of our customers, of citizens, and ensure that we will have wonderful freedom now and well into the future.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Anne. And like any other person out there who wants to connect with you, what's the best way they can connect with you and learn more about some of what you're doing?
They can email me. My name is ann.cavoukian at GPS, as in Sam, GPS by Design Center.com.
Okay, awesome. And I know you're on Twitter as well. So check out Anne on Twitter.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All of that. Okay. Thank you so much, Anne. Have a great day and stay safe.
Okay. Bye-bye.